It's time for Mock Draft Monday, but with free agency beginning in less than 24 hours, let's do a whole day mock offseason right now on Locked On Commanders.
You are Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome inside today's episode of Locked On Commanders. I'm your host, David Harrison, here with you every Monday through Friday, your eyes and ears on the ground, covering the Washington Commanders for Sports Illustrated's CommanderGameDay.com and also at WUSA9.com for local coverage. I want to thank you for coming through for today's episode, which we're going to be doing a whole mock off season. And at the end of it, I'm going to give you a all new 52-man roster for the Washington Commanders every day. Or those of you who come through every single day, I appreciate you coming through every single day, especially during the off season. We are still here 5 days a week, all off season long. There's never a break and there's always stuff to talk about, including on today's episode. If you're not already, please subscribe for free on YouTube or wherever you are listening to today's episode. And if you're new to the show, good timing. This is going to be a really fun exercise, a really fun episode, like all mock draft episodes and like all mock off-season move episodes. I fully plan on getting every single thing right, 100%, all of it, just like I was Adam Peters. Of course, that's not actually the truth, but we're going to have a lot of fun anyway here on the Locked On Commanders podcast, your daily podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Commanders brought to you by FanDuel. And right now, new customers, you can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. It is mock off season time. The open negotiating period starts Monday at noon Eastern time. So I'm going to get this out to you early Sunday evening, give you close to 18 hours or so to really kind of digest it before the madness really begins. Of course, none of the free agent deals agreed to on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday can be finalized until Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern time, but it's going to be a lot of fun starting off Monday afternoon. So let's look at this. Again, one of our last episode, we did a depth chart reset, trying to reset the needs of the team. Since then, tight end Zach Ertz has been confirmed coming back on a one-year deal. We've been operating this offseason, basically expecting Zach Ertz to come back, so not a big surprise there. Zach Ertz, however, just like Bobby Wagner, on his way back here. So with that, the new needs rank for the Washington Commanders offense, it's going to shift just a little bit. Tight end was a little bit higher while Zach Ertz wasn't under contract, but now offensive line is the top need, followed by receiver, followed by running back, then tight end, then quarterback. Defensively, Dorrance Armstrong Jr. is still your only defensive end. Bobby Wagner is back, and still no nickel corner on our projection because, look, instead of getting into the debate right now, we will talk about this later on in the offseason, but right now, Mikey Sanders he was an outside corner the last time we saw him. We're just going to keep him out there right now on paper for our needs. So nickel corner still vacant. Strong safety still vacant because as of 3 p.m. Sunday afternoon Eastern time, that is when we are doing this show. News can break at any moment, even while we're recording, even while this is premiering and airing. Right now, Jeremy Chinn is still not under contract, so strong safety also vacant, which makes edge, strong safety, nickel corner our top three needs there. Now, just like we said on the last episodes, needs don't trump talent when it comes to mock drafting, all this stuff, but it may dictate how the free agent market goes. You have to fill some of these needs before you get to April. You don't want to enter April with no starting strong safety on your roster, for example. So going through free agency, look, we could go through 100 different names, 100 different people. What I came out here to do was to retain 3 of our players, so re-sign 3 Commanders as the Washington Commanders here in this mock off season, and then sign 3 new free agents. Now, obviously, the Commanders will sign many more than 6 players. Their roster is not anywhere near full with the expiring contracts. But for our exercise here and to make this time sensitive and also give you some good information, 3 re-signings, I should say, and 3 new additions to the team. We're going to re-sign Jeremy Chinn. Just talked about him, strong safety, had a great season, really came on, really developed as a run defender as well throughout the season, I felt. His run defense at the end of the year was better than his run defense at the beginning of the year, and he really became a very valuable part of the defense. Still have a lot of needs to help fix the run defense all together because, again, no matter how good your strong safety is, hybrid linebacker, star player, Buffalo nickel, whatever it is, no matter how good he is, if he is one of your best run defenders, there is a problem there. You need those fronts to get a little bit better. Dante Fowler Jr., outside linebacker. We're going to make that deal work. We're going to bring him back as well. A little bit hot and cold with Dante Fowler in 2024. Games where he made an impact, he made a big impact. Games where he had little impact, he usually had no impact. Want to see some consistency there, but you like what you have from him when you do get it there. And then we're going to bring back Cornelius Lucas. Swing tackles are always valuable. Veteran leadership is always valuable. He's a great locker room guy, and he's a guy that if you need him for some reason, most likely due to injury, you don't feel like you're in panic mode. You still trust him to go out there and at least do a solid job there. So those are our three guys we're going to bring back: Jeremy Chinn, Dante Fowler Jr., Cornelius Lucas. Jeremy Chinn is going to cost us the most, but got a good amount of money, especially after John Allen's released. Even with Deebo Samuel coming in, you're still looking at about $60-70 million in cap space. So Jeremy Chinn's not going to break the bank there on a new safety deal. Now, time to sign and trade some players. As of right now, and again, this could change at any moment, Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receiver Chris Godwin is a pending free agent. And because he's a pending free agent, we're going to bring him in, estimated to make $22.5 million a year on his next contract. That does not mean he's going to absolutely cost $22.5 million against this year's salary cap. So just keep that in mind. The numbers can be manipulated in a lot of ways to make it to where he only counts for $7 million against cap. They could make him count against $40 million against the cap and get a lot of that money out of the way. Just depends on how they decide to do it. We are going to make a move to get Jedrick Wills. Now, I will acknowledge to you here that could involve a trade, which would then swap some draft capital, which we are not going to do in this mock draft. But it could also just wait until the Cleveland Browns release Jedrick Wills, which is the expectation if they can't find a trade partner, and then sign him as a free agent. So we're not going to get too deep in the weeds on that, but we are going to bring in Jedrick Wills, former first round pick of the Cleveland Browns a few years back, brought in as a tackle, hasn't really done well. We're going to try to look at kind of the Mekhi Becton reclamation process here, where maybe he's a tackle, maybe he's a guard. Perhaps if we can tap into him a little bit and get him elevated, he could be our fill-in for Sam Cosmi until Sam gets back. More on that, at a later date. Jordan Lewis, Dallas Cowboys nickel cornerback, is going to be our final sign or trade, estimated to make $2.3 million per year on his next contract. Obviously, he knows Joey Jr. He knows Dan Quinn. This team could use a nickel, especially again with Mikey Sanders still, quote unquote, being an outside corner, according to our estimation, just because that's what he was the last time we saw him, right? $2.3 million per year, not going to break the bank. A bonus re-signing, I want to bring quarterback Marcus Mariota back. So I'm going to cheat a little bit on my own rules, and we're going to bring Marcus back. So doing that, we look at our offense. Quarterback obviously is set. Our top two running backs, B-Rob, Austin Eckler. We got McLaurin, Godwin, and Deebo Samuel, Luke McCaffrey right now. So four top receivers look pretty solid. Zach Ertz and Ben Sinnott. We do expect Ben Sinnott now to elevate to that number 2 tight end spot. John Bates probably going to leave in free agency to look for another opportunity to either stay number 2 or even battle for a number 1 with maybe a rookie that gets drafted by that team. Offensive tackles, Brandon Coleman, Andrew Wiley, Cornelius Lucas. Guards, Nick Allegretti, Sam Cosmi, who again we might need a fill-in for. That's where Jedrick Wills maybe comes in if he can prove capable there. Center, Tyler Biadasz. So we re-rank our offensive needs. O-line is now back at the top. Tight end is still up there, but not quite as much of a need because you do have that veteran back. Wide receiver, you can never have too many of those. And, of course, quarterback is going to be all the way at the bottom. Running back coming in between O-line and tight end. I forgot to name that one. Defensively, Dorrance Armstrong Jr. is back. Our edge is still somewhat vacant. Dorrance Armstrong or Dante Fowler is a good outside linebacker, but we don't have a true defensive end. So a little bit of a vacancy there. D tackles, Deron Payne, Johnny Newton at the top. Outside linebackers, Frankie Louvu, Dante Fowler coming back. Inside linebackers, Bobby Wagner. Cornerbacks, Marshawn Lattimore, Mikey Sanders still, again, as of the end of 2024. Nickel corner is going to be Jordan Lewis. Free safety, Quan Martin. Strong safety, Jeremy Chinn. Restacking and racking our defensive needs after our post-first wave of free agency. D-end, D-tackle, inside linebacker, free safety, corner, and strong safety is the order that I'm going to put our needs in. We do have a void at the defensive end position, which automatically makes it our most important need. But there's not just one phase of free agency. There's also a second phase of free agency before you get to the NFL draft. So we're going to get to that. Then we'll get to our mock draft here on a mock offseason episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And this episode of Locked On Commanders is brought to you by TurboTax. This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes used to be waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any of your money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Well, now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. right now. An expert who gives you your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find your every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now, this is taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service, real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Continuing now with our mock offseason edition of Locked On Commanders. We have already addressed free agency and bringing back 3 players, bringing in 3 new players, and we've already got a good little move on our roster. But there is a second phase of free agency that comes before the NFL draft. This first phase is about to start Monday. There's no set boundaries to it, but call it about the first week, right? So this coming Monday to next Monday, your biggest signings, your biggest roster moves, things like that. And then a lot of times, what ends up happening is the team brings in a player, they end up releasing another player, and that guy joins a free agency pool, or players that just don't get deals done or deals that they want still remaining. And for this, I looked at the NFL's top 101 free agents, and I decided our second wave of free agency was going to come from the back 50. So any player on the NFL.com's top 101 ranked in the top 50 of available free agents, not on the board, not available as far as this mock is concerned, only the back 50. So what I did is I actually brought back 2 of our own players for the Commanders. I brought back Sheldon Day and Carl Davis, 2 defensive linemen who both played very good roles. They're not going to come in and threaten Deron Payne and Johnny Newton for starting snaps or anything like that right away. It's going to basically take those guys losing those jobs versus these guys winning them. But then we also go out and get free agent Harold Landry, and that's going to help fill our defensive end position. If he lasts that second phase of free agency, there's no guarantee, obviously, that he does. But if he does, then you're probably looking at getting him on a 1-year prove-it deal where he can come in, show that, his time with the Titans wasn't wasted. He's a really good player, impact defensive end. And then you can come out there and he'll sign somewhere else as a free agent, either this in 2026, either come back on a free agent deal or go elsewhere. Maybe you get a compensatory pick. So you can still look at him as a potential draft target. Look at the potential, or look at the position, I should say, for a potential draft target. So we're going to flesh out the depth on the defensive tackle spot, and then we're going to bring in a defensive end to start opposite of Dorrance Armstrong Jr. and Harold Landry. And that then restack and rack our whole roster need. D-tackle is going to be our first need as far as I'm concerned. O-line, because we brought back Cornelius Lucas, because we bring Jedrick Wills in there, I'm going to put it slightly behind D-tackle, but you really could put it up there. Or D-line, I should say, not just D-tackle, defensive line. Running back is going to be our third most important need. Inside linebacker after that. Bobby Wagner is not going to be around forever. Tight end after that. Benson, it's going to rise up when Zach Ertz retires, but you still need somebody behind him. Free safety and corner, I kind of put as a tie. Wide receiver, strong safety. Quarterback, our final needs, because I assume if we're bringing back Jeremy Chin, probably doing it on a 3-year deal. And, of course, knock on wood, things can happen, but we feel pretty confident with that new deal in place. So that gets us to our mock draft. And at pick number 29, we're going to take offensive tackle Kelvin Banks Jr. out of Texas. Now, I'm going to be honest. I actually came into this thing saying, all right, let's see what kind of trade back we can operate at number 29. But when I saw Kelvin Banks Jr. on that board, I know there's a little bit of guard talk there. Can he be a tackle? Is he really a guard? All those things. Look, I'm down with Bobby Johnson and this coaching staff figuring out the top 5 and where they need to go. Maybe it's Kelvin Banks on the left side, Brandon Coleman on the right side, Jedrick Wills or Andrew Wiley inside while Cosme is healing, Nick Allegretti and Tyler Biotish manning the middle and all those things. But either way, with Kelvin Banks on the board, we got to make the pick. So 29th overall, we go Kelvin Banks Jr. Now we come back on the board in the second round, 61st overall. That is where we're going to make our draft trade, because there's a good amount of talent on the board. And look, we would love to have some of these players, but we also need to have more picks. So we answer the phone. Cleveland Browns calling it number 61, or not number 61, number 67. They want to strike a deal. So we trade them number 61 overall, second round pick for the Washington Commanders. And we get back number 67, which is in the third round. So we turn the page to the third round before we pick again. But we also get back numbers 165 in the fifth round and number 201 in the sixth round. So we now have 2 third-round picks. We've got a fifth rounder. We're back in the sixth round again. And, of course, we've got our seventh-round picks. Now, the Browns take offensive tackle Cameron Williams out of Texas, who I don't necessarily hate. But, obviously, we weren't going to go there in the first place with the 67th overall pick that we got from the Cleveland Browns in the third round. we're going to go running back Cam Skattebo from the Arizona State Sun Devils. And yes, I am an Arizona State alum. Don't give me no hate. Don't at me. Cam Skattebo, very talented running back, very good depth there, is going to be a good complementary piece to Brian Robinson Jr., Austin Eckler. And with both of those running backs on contract years, potentially could develop into a guy that could step up, either be a starter next year, in 2026, I should say, next year, or be part of a 1-2 combo that you reorganize after the fact. Staying in the third round, 79th pick overall, we're going to go defensive tackle Jordan Phillips. This is a big dude, not really known for his pass rushing ability, so that's something that we'll have to try to teach him a little bit better at. But in the meantime, he's going to eat up a lot of space. He's going to hold gaps. He's going to do a lot of good things. Coming out of Maryland should help solidify our defensive line and give us a little bit of a better run defense package when we get into specific run defense situations. Now we're waiting all the way to the fifth round here. Pick 165, tight end Jake Brenningstool out of Clemson. A little bit of a versatile type of guy. Going to be our third tight end here to compete with Cole Turner, I should say. Might become that third tight end. If Cole Turner got better in his run blocking over the offseason, then maybe Cole can take that job. But we'll see. But either way, Jake Brenningstool coming in here from Clemson. It's going to the sixth round now. We got two picks here. Safety Akili Arnold is our pick at 201, one of the picks that we got from the Cleveland Browns in our trade. He's out of USC, versatile safety there. 206, we're going with linebacker Jay Higgins out of Iowa to join Jordan McGee behind Bobby Wagner. See if we can start developing some young guys and do at least some special teams contributors. If not, maybe we find diamond in the rough. Looked like Jordan McGee was going to be that diamond in the rough. Injuries really hindered his rookie season, but we're going to add Jay Higgins to that group. Seventh round, we got two more picks to make. Defensive back Malachi Moore out of Alabama, another versatile guy, could be a nickel, could be a safety. My only question here, and I don't want to say concern because it's not a concern. My only question here, and obviously meetings and interviews and all that stuff can kind of help answer this. Malachi Moore went to Alabama for college. He's from Alabama. My only question is, are you going to get homesick? And is that going to be a problem for you entering the National Football League? Because I'll tell you right now, like some of you out there might have laughed. I know some guys who have had their careers derailed because, for example, they grew up in Southern California, went to college in Southern California, only left Southern California to play football somewhere and then come back to Southern California. Got drafted in the East Coast, completely flamed out. Why? Because they got homesick, because they didn't know how to take care of themselves. They didn't know how to operate in an environment where they just weren't comfortable fully. So that would be a question, not a concern, a question about Malachi Moore that I would have before drafting him. And then our final pick in the seventh round, guard Dylan Fairchild out of Georgia. Feel really good about his potential. Again, seventh round pick. So we're kind of taking a flyer here, but we're going to add to our offensive line group again. No corner here. And I'm sure some of you are going to not like that. And I hear you, but I will tell you this. Percy Butler got some reps, practice reps, training camp reps, preseason rep, whatever, as an outside cornerback. I just kind of wonder, maybe there's a little bit there, maybe work on converting him to an outside corner as you bring in some new safeties like Akili Arnold and stuff like that. So that is our mock draft. Our first pick, number 29th overall, offensive tackle, Kelvin Banks Jr. Second pick, running back Cam Skattebo. Third pick, defensive tackle, Jordan Phillips. Fourth pick, tight end, Jake Brenningstool. Then we go safety, Akili Arnold, linebacker, Jay Higgins, defensive back, Malachi Moore, guard, Dylan Fairchild. And it just so happens we didn't pick based off of needs. These are all players that were at the top of the board when we came on the clock, but we also just so happen to satisfy our top 5 or 6 needs on the roster when we came into the mock draft situation. Now that gives us our first 52-man roster. And I say that because obviously they're going to fill out a 90-man roster when all is said and done. But I've got 52 names for you post off-season mock that I'm going to drop for you here to wrap up today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Commanders brought to you in part by FanDuel, and it's March, which means March Madness is here. And FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers, you can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. Looking at the odds on FanDuel right now to be the basketball championship winners for the men's and the women's brackets. Duke is leading the way in the men's bracket with plus 330 odds. Auburn coming in second at 380. Florida coming in third at 750. On the women's side, UConn is the top favorite to win the national championship this year with plus 280 odds. South Carolina matching them at plus 280 odds. USC at plus 550. So pick all your favorites, stay in the action, however you want to do it. Same game parlays. It's easy and fast. on the FanDuel app. And when you win, you can get paid instantly. So go to FanDuel.com, get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Wrapping up today's episode of Locked On Commanders, we've gone through our mock offseason. We signed 3 new players, or signed and added 3 new players. We re-signed 3 players. We're stacked and racked our roster again. We re-signed 2 more players, signed another free agent, did a mock draft, had a trade in there in the second round. We did a whole lot of work here, all to come up with our first 52-man roster. And of course, the Washington Commanders are not going to release a first initial 52-man roster this early, but we just so happen to have 49 players plus 3 specialists. Looking at the offensive side of things, quarterbacks, Jaden Daniels, obviously, is your starter. Marcus Mariota, our honorable re-signing. Sam Hartman is your quarterback 3 right now. Running backs, Brian Robinson Jr., Austin Eckler, rookie Cam Scadaboo, and Chris Rodriguez Jr. Wide receivers, Terry McLaurin, free agent signing, Chris Godwin, Deebo Samuel, who we're trading for from the San Francisco 49ers in real life, of course, and Luke McCaffrey, the second-year receiver. Tight ends, Zach Ertz coming back on a 1-year deal. Ben Sinnott moving up to number 2 in his second season. Jake Brenningstool, the rookie out of Clemson. Colson Yankoff and Cole Turner currently on the roster. Offensive tackles, Brandon Coleman, Andrew Wiley, Cornelius Lucas, and first-round pick Kelvin Banks Jr. will sort it out who starts where and all that stuff during training camp. Guards, Nick Allegretti, Sam Cosmi. Does need a plug there for a little bit. Jedrick Wills potentially could be that guy. Dylan Fairchild as a 7th-round developmental player coming in the end. Their center is Tyler Biadasz. On defense, Dorrance Armstrong Jr. is going to be joined by Harold Landry, our free agent signing. Javonte Jean-Baptiste still on the roster as a developmental player. Defensive tackles, Deron Payne and Johnny Newton already there. Jordan Phillips comes in through Maryland through the NFL draft. Sheldon Day, Carl Davis, Norrell Pollard rounding out our defensive tackle group right there. I think honestly right there, you got your DTs and a couple of practice squad guys probably. Outside linebackers, Frankie Louvu, Dante Fowler Jr., Dominique Hampton coming back for his second year. Inside linebackers, Bobby Wagner coming back, Jordan McGee hopefully healthy, Jay Higgins out of Iowa, our draft pick. Cornerbacks, Marshawn Lattimore, Mikey Sandersill, maybe Percy Butler. We'll see if that's a thing that comes to fruition. Nickel corner, Jordan Lewis and Malachi Moore, the rookie. Free safeties, Quan Martin, Tyler Owens, Achille Arnold. Strong safeties, Jeremy Chin and Jeremy Reeves. That is 49 players for you, plus 3 specialists. Tress Way, I don't know why he wouldn't come back. 3 specialists, that's 52 players. So right there in our mock off season, we are up to 52 players. I'm not going to fill in undrafted free agents and all this other stuff to get to 90. The team will do that on their own. But as you can see, a lot of work to be done. A lot of work could be done. A lot of fun, a lot of good players out there to potentially be had. And yes, you'll notice we did not trade for Trey Hendrickson. Obviously, Myles Garrett, in case you haven't heard by now, Myles Garrett did sign a new deal. So look, man, not everybody's about that talk that they talk. And apparently Myles Garrett was not as sold on or not determined to go win a championship as he was to be one of the highest paid losers in the National Football League. So good luck in Cleveland with no money and not a lot of talent on the roster. But those are the 52 players that we have after our mock off season. Let me know what you think about it. Of course, we will be back with a whole new episode as the madness gets going. We will cover all of the news that comes along with it. In the meantime, if you have questions or comments, all you got to do is text me to do that. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders. Become a Locked On Commanders insider today. For your next listen, check out the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast with Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez as they get you primed for all the best prospects, all the strongest position groups, and they'll even talk team needs for teams like the Washington Commanders as they see it on YouTube or wherever you're listening to this podcast, all for free. As always, thank you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen of the day, every day, everydayers. Thanks for coming through every day like you do. Until we speak again, if you're out and about, please be safe, be kind, and I'll see you right back here next time for another episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.